The PlayStation Classic is a piece of shit. Between the poor performance of many games on this thing, using the European PAL version for several of the titles, and the somewhat lackluster choice of PS1 games chosen for this retro console, I can't in good faith recommend you pick one of these things up, even at a heavily discounted price. Unless, of course, you're planning on hacking the thing. It might take some time, but with enough effort you can turn the PlayStation Classic from a piece of garbage into a pretty decent retro console. I'm not going to show you how to hack the thing here, because there's like a million videos already demonstrating how to do it. It's not hard to hack at all, so everyone should be able to do it without much hassle. I'm here today to simply recommend 30 games that I believe are well worth downloading on the Classic. This is my list, of course, so not everyone is going to agree with it. And since I'm mainly into survival horror games, expect a few of them in there too. Also, these games aren't in any particular order. So without further ado, let's begin. Alundra is one of the greatest action RPGs ever made, with a brilliant story, amazing music, really challenging puzzles, and great dungeon design. I actually prefer Alundra over A Link to the Past, and I'm shocked more people don't know about it. Okay, screw Resident Evil 3, screw Final Fantasy 7, Dino Crisis needs to be remade more than those games. This title had a lot of potential, but it was unfortunately hindered by the limitations of the PS1 hardware. It's still a great little game with some fantastic level design and set pieces, but imagine what a game like this would look like on current gen consoles. Klonoa Door to Klonoa is probably my favourite 2D platformer on the PS1. At first it feels like a bit of a Kirby ripoff, but quickly distinguishes itself with excellent level design and a really memorable and touching story. I mean, it's Symphony of the frickin' Night. What do you want me to say? It should have been on the frickin' Classic to begin with. I played through Tomb Raider recently on my Vita, and I was shocked by how well it holds up today. Some people might prefer the sequels, but to me, the original Tomb Raider is an all-time classic. I won't be putting many shooters on this list, mainly because playing these kinds of games today on a standard PS1 controller is just madness to me. However, if you're desperate for an FPS on the PS1, there's still a lot of fun to be had with Quake 2. Also, I have to give a special shout out to the excellent PS1 port of Doom. One of the greatest games I've ever played. The best story in any Final Fantasy game, amazing music, and some of the most absorbing gameplay you'll ever find in a tactical RPG. Final Fantasy Tactics is a must play. To a lot of people, Soul Reaver is basically Tomb Raider with vampires, and that's a very good thing. One of the best action adventure games on PS1. Yeah, you knew this purple shit had to show up somewhere on the list. The third Spyro game had everything you could want from a sequel. More levels, more variety, and more things to collect. An excellent 3D platformer. I've talked plenty about the Silent Hill series in the past, and with good reason. It's probably my favourite series in gaming. The first game has admittedly aged quite badly, but if you can look past its shortcomings, you'll be in for one of the scariest experiences in gaming. No one, and I mean no one, talks about Lomax, and I have no idea why. If this game had been released on the SNES, it would have been considered a classic, but because it released during an era where every game had to be 3D, a lot of people passed it by, and that's a real shame. 7 is on the Classic, and that's great. 9 is an amazing game too, but simply because it never gets the love it deserves, I'm putting Final Fantasy 8 on the list. It may not be my favourite Final Fantasy on the PS1, but it's still an amazing RPG nonetheless. Yes, I know there are a million Worms games, and I know a lot of people might be confused about why I chose the original, but man, this game was my childhood. The memories I had playing this game with my family can never be replaced, and for that it will always have a special place in my heart. Driver is one of the coolest driving games ever. It replicates the look and feel of many car chases you would have seen in movies during the 80s and 90s, and it has a suitably epic soundtrack to back it up. You get to torture things before killing them in Wild 9. My parents won't let me torture things in real life, so this is the next best thing, I guess. Yeah, you knew this orange little shit had to show up on the list somewhere, and in my honest opinion, Crash Bandicoot 2 is the best game in the series. It's not as ball-crushingly hard as the first game, while not being completely gimmick-obsessed like the third game. You skate about and do cool shit in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. It's a fun time. Come on, Sony, why wasn't this on the list? You get to rap with an onion and a Jamaican frog, for Christ's sake. You also get to rap while waiting in line to take a shit. How many other games let you do that? MDK is a really cool third-person shooter. It's absolute madness, and the shooting is really enjoyable. It will only take a few hours to complete, but my god are those few hours ever fun. A lot of people have probably never played this game, and that's a real shame, because this is easily one of the most beautiful games I've ever played. The pixel art is simply stunning, and the game's soundtrack is just as wonderful. One of the best experiences I've had on the system. Silent Bomber is one of the most insane action games on the PS1. This game never lets up for a second, and it results in one of the best paced games on the system. Mega Man X4 is my second favourite Mega Man X game after the original. For me to accurately explain why would take its own video, but trust me when I tell you, it's excellent. Yes, the original is on the classic, but to me, the sequel is where the series really came into its own. It's a terrifying game, with some of the best environments and creature design in the series. One of the best kart racers of all time, CTR remains a fan favourite PS1 game to this day, and with good reason. It's one of the most addictive games on the system. Criminal that it wasn't on the classic to begin with. I'm not the biggest fan of the original Tombi. I found it a bit too hard for its own good. Regardless, I still had fun with the title and can totally understand why so many people love it. Parasite Eve is Resident Evil if Resident Evil was a turn-based RPG. If that sounds appealing to you, check this out. Devil Dice is one of the most addictive puzzle games I've ever played. It's the kind of game you could easily put a few hours into without even noticing, and even better, it's multiplayer. Another kart racing game, and one I had to put here because of how few people know about it. In my opinion, it's right up there with Crash Team Racing as one of the best kart racers ever, and I highly recommend everyone check it out. Oh, and Jamiroquai wrote a song for the game. It's shit, but it's there. Fear Effect is such a unique game, and I love it for that. It's like Resident Evil meets Blade Runner meets Another World, and it's just as crazy as that sounds. It was maybe a bit too ambitious for the time, having to be stored on a massive 4 PS1 discs, but I have to commend its ambition. Abe's Odyssey is a masterpiece, but to truly experience Abe's journey, you simply have to play the sequel. With absolutely stunning art and engaging gameplay, these two games together make up the best platformers you could buy on PS1. So that's my list. I know I missed a few classics, but I didn't want this video to be an hour long. Please let me know what games you will be adding to your PlayStation Classic, and who knows, I may even do a part 2 in the future. Peace out.